Good afternoon. We're here at Autocar's headquarters in Hagerstown, Indiana. Today we're going to talk about the X-Spotter. It's our terminal tractor, and how to safely operate a terminal tractor if you're a driver who operates one of these every day. At Autocar, our number one concern is safety. So before a driver even gets in the vehicle, we'd like to see a driver come up to the front, check underneath the vehicle, look for any leaks you can find. Engine, radiator, hydraulics, check underneath the entire vehicle up front, check on the sides, see if you can find any fluids underneath that you need to talk to maintenance about before you get started. You see any drips, any drops, take care of that before the day gets started. Secondly, we want to check the air pressures. We got the PSIs on the tires. While you're over here, check the air pressures on the tires. Third, very important, we got the hydraulic tank here. Want to make sure we've got hydraulic fluid to the proper levels and we don't have any leaks around the tank, either beneath it or on top of it. Also, while we're in this area, we want to make sure the cab is latched down to the cab latches. Possibly maintenance did some work on the vehicle, had the cab tilted over, brought the cab back down, and it's not latched all the way. You want to definitely make sure that's the case. If not the case, you want to go to the cab pump and make sure that the cab is down all the way and latched before you get on there. Also, while you're in this area of the vehicle, you want to check the boom and the deck. Make sure that that's clear. There's nothing on there that'll hinder an operator or driver from walking back and forth as they hook on the glad hands and so forth. Right here we have our exhaust stack, which just sits here temporarily for freight, but that normally isn't here. Absolutely never stick any hands or arms underneath the boom when it's raised. A very important safety point. Even though it looks like it's stable and sturdy, you never want to reach underneath there unless it's properly supported. So as you move your way around, continue to check for leaks beneath the rear. Also continue to check the pressures of the other tires on the other side, and that's basically about it. So that's a nice quick walk around before you get into the vehicle. Once you do the walk around, there's a couple very last things before we go up there. You'll want to check your engine and transmission fluids, make sure they're at the proper levels. On the Autocar X-Spotter, they're right here, convenient. While you're standing, you can check those nice and easily. You don't have to go under the hood or anything like that. Another thing to check, on most vehicles, the air tank lanyards are down here. If any condensation is accumulated in your air tanks, you're going to want to pull the lanyards and empty out any of that condensation so that your tank volumes are full and available for full capacity. Once you're done with that, now it's time to board the vehicle. Again, on the X-Spotter, we have some nice grab handles here to really make sure you got 3 points of contact all the way up and all the way down. Okay, now we're ready to get running here and ready to get working. You know, if a lot of drivers prefer to have the door open while they're working and while they're spotting, that's perfectly fine in an X-Spotter. You'll just want to make sure this door is latched shut if you're going to leave it open, or latch closed. We don't want it swinging open or closed on a quick turn. So that's something to think of first. Secondly, on an X-Spotter, you want to make sure you got your seatbelt on for safety. And then adjust the mirrors as appropriate before you get started. After you do that, put your foot on the service brake and turn the ignition on and turn it to start. We won't do that to keep the noise down. Once you start the vehicle, the very first thing you want to look at is oil pressure. Make sure the oil pressure is building. If it's not, turn it off and take it to maintenance. If the engine doesn't start for some reason, give yourself about 30 seconds and then give it another shot and see if it works then. Once you get the engine on and you see that oil pressure is building, the very next thing you need to do is wait for the air pressure in the air brake system to accumulate in order to release the spring brakes. So here you have the air pressure gauges, both A and B, on an X-Spotter from Autocar. We have a 121 air brake system, a separate system emergency brakes from service brakes, and a separate system front brakes to rear brakes. Here's those two gauges. You can see them accumulating up to north of 60, right around 70 psi. As soon as you hit 70, you can push the spring brakes in to release the spring brakes, and now you're ready to go. Once you push the spring brakes in, you step on the service brakes. You'll want to go to your transmission, put it into drive. Now we're ready to drive the vehicle around to find a trailer to go hook up to spot somewhere. And we're in drive, and we're driving around, and as we're driving and approaching the trailer we're going to hook up to, what we want to do is do a couple things. Check to make sure that the fifth wheel is all the way down. So you hit the fifth wheel lever here, hit it on lower, make sure that's all the way down. The second thing we want to do is make sure the jaw locks in the fifth wheel are open. So if you push this button here and you look back to the fifth wheel, you can make sure those jaw locks are open. Now we're ready to approach the trailer as we're backing up towards the trailer. Using the mirrors, using our sight, we want to back up, center ourselves to the trailer, and approach it nice and easily and slowly with our foot on the brake, service brake, and approaching it so we don't hit too hard. Once we barely get it underneath the trailer, what we want to do then is raise the fifth wheel just slightly and just get the landing gear off the ground a few inches. Once we have the landing gear off the ground a few inches, then we want to continue in reverse and make sure that our fifth wheel contacts the kingpin and that it gets into the jaw locks. Once we hear that secure connection, now we want to raise the fifth wheel all the way up. And we can step on the gas if we'd like to speed up that raise. And once that raise is all the way to the level we're comfortable with, doesn't need to be all the way to the top height, but a high level to keep the landing gear off the ground as we drive away. Then what we want to do before we get going is put it in drive and step on the gas ever so slightly and give it a slight tug. This is to make sure that the fifth wheel is properly engaged on the trailer kingpin. You should be able to see that and feel that as you're watching. Once you've ensured that the fifth wheel is properly engaged to the trailer, now you're in good shape. You've got the fifth wheel up, the trailer up, put the vehicle in neutral, put the parking brakes back on, and then what we want to do with the parking brakes on is back up and hook up the service lines to the back of the trailer, service and emergency lines. Hook up the glad hands. In some cases, we'll have an electrical line also for the trailer brake lights as well. Hook that up. Once those are hooked up, now we can go back into the cab. Make sure we've got our seat belt on again. Seat belt's connected. Foot on the service brake. Release the parking brakes. Put it in drive. And then move on and drive it around. Now we're going to spot that trailer. Drive it to where it needs to be driven. Back it up to where the trailer needs to be spotted in the yard. Once we've got the trailer where it needs to be, again, step on the service brakes, hit the parking brake, put it into neutral, unhook your seat belt, come out, unlatch the glad hands off the trailer, back into your glad hand buckets, come on back into the truck, lower the fifth wheel all the way down. When the fifth wheel's all the way to the ground, the landing gear is down. Unhook the jaw locks of the fifth wheel. Now you're ready to drive away, carefully. So we step on the service brakes, we release the parking brake, we put it into drive, and very carefully we drive away, making sure we disengage appropriately from the kingpin of the trailer. Once we clear the trailer, now we're good to drive away safely, slowly. We put it in drive and drive away onto the next trailer that we want to go ahead and hook up to and then spot. So that's how you safely operate a terminal tractor. Hopefully we've covered it all for you. Remember, before you even get in a truck, make sure you do the walk around, that the vehicle's ready to work for the day. And then secondly, make sure you're very safe in how you operate the terminal tractor and you follow the systems and processes I just reviewed with you today, and you'll be in good shape. Thanks for watching us here at Autocar, home of the X-Spotter, and good luck to you.